We hear a lot about angels this time of year. Many people believe that angels surround us every day. And one woman in North Carolina believes that an angel saved her daughter's life.
Some angels descend with songs, others arrive with warnings. But then there are the ones no one dares to speak of, the ones who never speak, never sing, never look like anything we've been told to expect. They don't walk, they don't fly, they spin. They are eyes and fire and wheels, and they move with the throne of God. These are the Ophanim, the most mysterious angels in the Bible that almost no one talks about. They're not mentioned in sermons. They're barely touched in study guides, and yet they appear at one of the most important moments in prophetic history, bringing with them a vision so strange, so overwhelming, that even scholars hesitate to explain what Ezekiel saw. The prophet wasn't in Jerusalem when it happened. He was in exile, living in Babylon, stripped of his priestly role, surrounded by displaced people who had lost everything they believed made them holy. No temple, no altar, no land, just the dry banks of the Chebar River and a sky that had long felt silent until it opened. As described in Ezekiel 1, a storm surged from the north, not rain but something else. A whirlwind wrapped in fire, flashing with light, roaring as if heaven itself had broken formation and come thundering into the earth. Ezekiel turned his eyes toward it, expecting terror. What he found was worse. 4 creatures emerged from the heart of the storm. They glowed like metal heated white hot, shaped with a strange symmetry. Each one with 4 wings, 4 faces, 4 directions of motion. Their legs were straight, unmoving, with hooves like burnished bronze. Under their wings, arms, human arms, reached out, and the sound of their movement began to fill the air like a living storm. Their faces were not singular. Each had the face of a man, the face of a lion, the face of an ox, and the face of an eagle. Strength, wisdom, service, sovereignty, all fused together in one burning, indescribable form. But it was what rested beneath them that shook Ezekiel's soul. Wheels. One for each creature, massive and radiant, interlocked in such a way that they could move in any direction without turning. Wheels within wheels, spinning, lifting, moving, and yet completely still. Their rims gleamed like gemstones, but that wasn't what froze Ezekiel in place. The rims were covered in eyes, not painted, not etched, living eyes, staring in every direction, watching everything. As seen in Ezekiel 10:12, every surface of these wheels, their outer edges, their inner rings were covered in these eyes, and wherever the creatures went, the wheels followed. Or perhaps it was the other way around, because the spirit of the creatures lived in the wheels. They moved in perfect unity, and they obeyed no voice but one, the throne. Hovering above them was an expanse, shining like crystal, suspended in the air. Above that, something like a throne, and on the throne, something like a man, but not a man. A figure of fire and radiance, encased in brilliance like molten metal and the glow of a rainbow after a storm. Ezekiel collapsed, not in understanding, but in reverent fear, because in that moment he saw what few ever had. The mobile presence of God, a chariot throne driven not by horses or wind, but by impossible beings, by angels no one else would name. Why wheels? Why eyes? Why would the throne of God ride not on clouds, but on this terrifying, intricate, mechanical glory? Most believers have heard of cherubim, some know of seraphim, but the Ophanims, these spinning all-seeing wheels, are often left unmentioned, pushed to the margins of doctrine and vision, yet here they are, bearing the throne, responding to spirit, moving without being touched. They are never named directly in the Hebrew scriptures. The word Ophanim comes from the Hebrew for wheels, and in later mystical texts, like the Book of Enoch, and Jewish Merkabah mysticism, they're counted among the highest ranks of heavenly beings. Not messengers, not warriors, but mechanisms of glory, the ones who carry the throne itself. Why don't we talk about them? because they break the rules of angelic imagination. They don't speak. They don't appear in dreams with soft light and folded hands. They are eyes and fire and motion. They are terrifying, unfamiliar, and yet they are central. According to Ezekiel 1:20, the wheels moved with the Spirit. Wherever the Spirit wanted to go, the wheels went, elevated from the earth, untouched by gravity, responding not to logic, but to holiness. They were instruments of divine will, not passive symbols, but living witnesses to the truth that God does not remain still. This vision didn't just stun Ezekiel, it commissioned him. In the chapters that followed, God would send him as a prophet to a broken nation. But he didn't call Ezekiel with words, he called him with wheels, and behind the eyes, a message: I see you, I move with you, I go where my people are, even into exile. But what Ezekiel saw next would change everything. The wheels were not finished moving. In Ezekiel 10, the vision returned, not as a distant memory, but as a live revelation unfolding again. Deeper, sharper, louder. This time, something had changed. The glory of God was leaving. Ezekiel saw the same four creatures, the same chariot throne, the same wheels full of eyes, ascending above the temple. The cherubim, once unnamed, stood as solemn sentinels with wings outstretched and gaze unflinching. Their silent obedience carried the weight of infinite purpose, a perfect complement to the wheel's electric stillness. As described in Ezekiel 10:18, the presence of the Lord lifted from the inner sanctuary and floated above the temple threshold. The ground trembled, the sky hushed, then the glory turned its face northward, moving not in anger but in sorrow, a divine withdrawal that felt like mourning. The wheels that carried him did not slow. They did not glance back, they simply moved. The throne did not retreat, it redirected. The implications crashed into Ezekiel's heart like the roar of unseen waters. The temple still stood in Jerusalem, and echoes of worship still drifted through its halls, but the glory had departed. The Lord had shown himself alive, and then he had become distant again. No one else saw it, not priests, not kings, not even the people within the temple courts. Only Ezekiel, only the exile on alien soil who dared to look up into heaven again. The Ophanim's eyes had not turned from him, and neither had God's. This departure was not dislocation, it was demonstration. The Lord does not stay where he is ignored. Holiness moves, and it moves with unimaginable precision. The Ophanim are more than mysterious angels. They are divine engines. They are warning, and they are promise. Their silent motion proclaimed that heaven does not wait. It pursues, it follows, it confronts, it witnesses. In Ezekiel 1, they came to Babylon. In Ezekiel 10, they left Jerusalem. Their movement frames the story of God's engagement with exile, destruction, restoration, the chaos of conquest, the silence of ruins, the flicker of hope in ruins. They all unfold beneath their burning gaze. When theologians look at these beings, they hesitate. They say the language is too mystical, too wild. Some modern Bible editions translate the wheels simply as the chariot wheels, bypassing the living artistry of those eyes. Yet the original Hebrew tells a different story. Wheels, alive, in every direction, watching, knowing, spinning with purpose. So rare are they that most modern believers never hear of them. Sunday schools skip them, devotionals avoid them. They stay hidden, buried in the dust of prophecy, like a secret God did not intend us to explore. But the ancient rabbis, in texts like the Book of Enoch and the later Merkabah mysticism, elevated them. They warned students, do not attempt to ascend into the chariot unless you are purified in both body and mind. The vision of the throne is too potent, too dangerous. But why such secrecy? That reminds us that the God we pray to is not content with safety. He is not a deity confined to ethereal light shows. He is glorious. He is mysterious. He is terrifying. The Ophanim, the most mysterious angels in the Bible, are reminders of the edges we are not meant to cross lightly. Centuries later, John in Revelation 4 would glimpse creatures reminiscent of Ezekiel's vision, full of eyes, surrounded by fire, singing praises before a throne. Though he never used the name Ophanim, the echo is undeniable. when he fell on his face, it was in the presence of the same royal chariot throne that once hovered over Babylon. The Lord's presence returns with watchers and wheels. What would Ezekiel have felt knowing John would one day witness something similar? Perhaps consolation, a confirmation that this vision was not madness, but realism. In the hush after the departing glory, Ezekiel heard a voice, not words, but destiny, calling him to speak for those through whom the throne had moved. His exile had become his pulpit, his message one of impending judgment, his mission one of possible redemption. He spoke again and again throughout the land of the Chaldeans, always rooted in what he had seen. What if we looked harder into the shadows behind prophecy? What if we accepted that angels can be wheels and that holiness can be terrifying? What if we acknowledge that God's presence is not an optional blessing, but a reality that spins through every moment, unseen but potent? The Ophanim tell us that exile is never empty. They tell us that departure does not equal absence. They tell us that eyes watch what we cannot see, that wheels move before we walk toward hope, that glory is neither distant nor dormant, it is always in motion. In the quiet of our own exile, in grief, confusion, and loss, perhaps the chariot still rides, maybe the wheels still turn, maybe the watchers still look for us amid the dust, the winds, the broken prayers. Because the Ophanim never stopped. They just became invisible to us. We can't summon them, we can't tame them, but we can remember them. We can remember that heaven does not sleep, that holiness is never passive, that God's throne is not bound by walls, that his glory travels wide and deep through every landscape of brokenness to where his people are. These are the most mysterious angels in the Bible. The ones rarely named, rarely seen, rarely spoken of, yet they hover at the perimeter of every divine movement, at every place where heaven touches earth, and they are still turning, still watching, still carrying the weight of divine purpose. The question is, are we watching them? Because if the wheels ever start to move again, toward where we live, toward where we hurt, will we feel the shift? Will we collapse in awe? Will we speak the words God gives? They are wheels of revelation, wheels of sanity, wheels of glory, and they are the testimony that heaven never tires of moving toward what is broken. This is what Faith Face exists to help you see, to shine a light into the unseen places, to let you feel the trembling of ancient movement, to show you that holiness is not out there somewhere. It may already be spinning in your neighborhood. If this unlocked something you didn't expect, subscribe for more deep dives into the layers of Scripture. And in the comments, tell us, what piece of God's mystery has hidden itself from you? Which unseen presence do you long to see? Until next time, stay prayerful.